views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.
Hello, Philippines. This is Lecain with World News Jam. We bring you the most interesting stories from around the world each week. We just don't give you the news, but we tell you the story behind the news, as well as read and answer your questions in an entertaining and easy to understand way. So please join us on DZRJ 810 AM Radio Bandito TV and get yourself updated with all the interesting news of the week from around the world right here on DZRJ's World News Jam.
Watch and listen to World News Jam every Sunday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. airing on Sky Cable Channel 224 and on all DTT boxes. Simulcasting online on Facebook and YouTube. Listen and watch on your mobile devices. Just search DZRJ Radio Bandido.
Hello, Philippines, and welcome to the World News Jam on DZRJ and RJ TV. My name is Lecain. I'm joined, as always, with Miss 𝗪cie Tolentino. 𝗪cie Tolentino, how do you like the new kind of robotic voice that I have with the spaces in between?
I don't know what to say, Eric, but you know what? Good evening to our viewers, listener of DZRJ World News Jam.
World News Jam, where we talk about stories going on around the world, some of the interesting stuff that happened outside the Philippines, so you can stay informed inside the Philippines. Now, 𝗪cie, I want to kind of, usually we blah, blah, blah a little bit, but this week, there's just so much news. There's so much stuff going on, so I want to kind of dive right into this. The big question of the week, 𝗪cie, and I know you know what I'm about to talk about. If you're rich and famous, can you commit a crime and get away with it?
Well, as we all know, nobody is above the law. So even though how rich you are, you cannot run away, or you cannot get away with your murder, whatever you committed.
So the answer to the question is, can you get away with the crime if you're rich and famous? The answer is yes.
No.
If you can afford the best lawyers and you can drag out the process until the prosecutor or the judge is changed or some way, or you can reach a settlement for a lot of money, just pay off everyone. It's possible if you're rich and famous.
Well, maybe, but you know what? That's very much, immoral. Illegal? What other term can I use? Because
well,
that is
not necessarily like illegal. You pay for, you've got, for you and me, we'd have to search out and shop for a lawyer, whereas they may have a team of 10 to 15 lawyers, some of the best lawyers, which makes things it seems a little lopsided. But the issue that I was kind of bringing up is sometimes if you're rich, you can get out of something, but sometimes you can't.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you can, and most of them you can't, because you are. Oh my! There's a crime committed. I mean, how can you run away from it or get rid of? I don't know, Eric. I mean, morally. We know it's not, I don't know what to say, but okay, let you say something.
Well, let me just explain how Donald Trump does it. He usually appeals and appeals and delays until, like I said, until slowly everybody's just run out of money and he's the only one left standing. But because Donald Trump, he's been sued more times than there are episodes of Friends. Mm-hmm. He's ripped off people and scammed people and defamed people. I'm not sitting here saying I'm against Donald Trump, but he's a hard guy to sue because he's rich. Multiple women have tried to sue him for rape and sexual misconduct, and it's just too hard to do. And while you're doing it, he will make your life an absolute living hell. He'll just say anything. And he knows what he's doing. He knows what's going to happen to you. And most have just given up, but not E. Jean Carroll.
Well, That's the big news.
That is the big news coming out of the United States. That Trump sexually assaulted her decades ago, and she sued him. It wasn't looking too good for her at the beginning, but it was proven in court that he was indeed guilty. And because it was a civil trial, Trump would not be given jail time, however, had to pay damages in the amount of $5 million for things that he said about her that the jury deemed damaging to her reputation. But, here I was going to say, what's $5 million?
Well, for a rich man like him, that's peanuts. That's nothing.
It's peanuts. So he appealed the decisions anyway, which means he had to put up a bond of $5 million. But he kept saying, after the thing was over, he kept saying, I never met this woman. I don't even know this woman. This woman, she's a liar. She's a scammer. In fact, if he knew her, which he said he doesn't, she's not his type anyway because she's so ugly, according to Donald Trump.
Yeah. Well, that's Donald Trump.
And Donald Trump, he said, he goes, he only goes with the best-looking women. However, the interesting thing was, in his first trial, he was asked who this woman was in this picture next to him. And he said it's his wife, 𝗪cie𝗿𝗋, but it was not 𝗪cie𝗿𝗋, it was 𝗪cie𝗿𝗀. The woman that he said he would never go with because she was too ugly, that he only picks the most beautiful women, but he accidentally mistaked her for his wife.
Okay, Eric. Maybe now he look at her, she's ugly because she's old now.
Well,
right?
I mean, now, she,
but
now
before,
she's 80 years old now.
Yeah, but before, look, he has mistaken that lady to his ex-wife, 𝗪cie𝗿𝗋. So what happened there?
Yeah, of course. When I was 20 years old, I mean,
I mean, when we were young, we look hot. We are,
Now,
handsome,
nothing.
good-looking, sexy, whatever you call it. But when you're old, everybody will look ugly. Even him, he look ugly. I mean, nobody's exempted.
No, that's one thing you can't get away from. You can't buy your way out of his old age. But during the trial, she asked the jury. This would be the second time. So the first time she won $5 million. And he kept saying all this. He kept saying he didn't know her, she's a liar, all this kind of stuff. After the trial, so she sued him again. And when she sued him again, this time she asked for $10 million. And this week, they awarded her not $10 million.
$83.3 million.
$83 million for stuff that he said after the first trial, where he was found guilty of defaming her and saying lies about her. He went on to say more lies about her. She sued him again, but this time, not $5 million, not $10 million, $83 million.
Yeah. I mean, but it was like there is some kind of explanation. The $7 million is for what?
Yeah. It went down the list of defamation, punitive damages. I mean, that's what everybody was waiting for. Was we kind of knew that there would be an amount of probably like $5-6 million for the actual trial. Then the reputation stuff would be probably somewhere. I was thinking it would be probably around $4 to $5 million. But then the punitive damages, like 67 million. What was it? 67 million. The punitive damages. That's where everybody was shocked, and I'm sure Donald Trump was shocked, as well as 𝗪cie𝗿𝗀𝗋. I'm sure she was shocked. Now, of course, this gave us an example. I mean, I think that's part of what this was about when the jury was kind of deliberating this. The law does apply to everyone, even to rich and famous. Now, after this verdict was read, now he wasn't in the court for the verdict itself, but Trump was quite angry, claiming that this went against his First Amendment rights of free speech. And that this is not America, et cetera, et cetera. He went on to, but interesting enough, when Trump, now this is very interesting, when Trump was president, he said that he would change the laws to make it easier for people to sue for people saying untrue things about you. Because he was saying that everybody was saying untrue things about him, and he was going to change the laws to make it easier to sue people who were saying untrue things about you. So ironically now, he's saying that you should not be able to sue for lying about someone unless, of course, you're Donald Trump. Then you should be able to sue. Anyway, that's looks where it's going now. But
well.
But the interesting thing, I think, Trump spoke in the trial, which everybody, we didn't think he was claiming he was going to speak, and then everybody, no, he's not going to speak. He always says he's going to speak, and then he never does. And then this time he spoke in the trial, and the judge told him, listen, there are rules in federal court. You either, these are questions, you answer either yes or no, but you can't start saying things that are not true or doing a political speech, and you can imagine how that went.
Well, yeah, that's Donald Trump again. So I mean, when the trial was ongoing, and when he was saying things, he's attacking even after the trial, he will talk after, and say, oh, he will be naming names, right? He loved to do that. And at the same time, I noticed that during the trial, isn't it that your lawyer normally tells you, don't say, okay, you are only allowed to say this. You are
don't speak.
Yeah. So, but he does the opposite.
He does. Yeah, I can't imagine what it must be like to be Trump's lawyer.
I know, right? I mean, the stress that this guy has, because Trump is Trump. He will say anything he wants, even though we know for a fact that he should not say this.
Well, I mean, here is the best example, is he lost $5 million because he said lies about this woman. And he continued to keep saying the lies even after he lost the case. And so she sued him again.
Yeah, that's why. Well, you know what? If I am Jean, I'll do the same thing. Because he did not stop.
And the question was that her lawyer said to the jury is, what would it take to shut him up? Like another $5 million, another $20 million? What amount will shut him up? And after the trial was over, he went out and he tweeted a whole bunch of stuff. But you know what? In the tweets, he didn't mention her name. He didn't say Jean Carroll. Yeah. So, because I'm sure they're just waiting for him to say her name again. Yeah. They're going to sue him again. But he, in the trial itself, he said, right when she asked him the question, and he said, I'm here. I want to defend myself, my family, and frankly, the presidency. And as soon as he said that, the judge jumped in and said, I'm going to stop you right there. The answer to this question is yes or no.
Yeah.
And he was only on the stand for about 3 minutes. And the judge was like, all right, you're done. You're out of here. And this judge didn't put up with any of these things. He's, Trump is not used to following the same rules as the rest of us. And he was kind of shocked when the judge made him follow the rules. Federal rules have certain things. In fact, even his own lawyer, didn't seem to know the rules of the court. She was trying to introduce evidence, and the judge was like, no, you can't introduce new evidence.
Oh, the lady lawyer?
The lady lawyer. And
yeah. I mean, I think she is very much influenced. She's very much like Trump, the way she talks. I mean, I think this woman, I figure she's really a young lawyer. I think she need more practice.
I think she was there as almost instead of a lawyer, but a PR person, because I think they're going to use this trial to raise money. I think that's for sure what he's going to do. He's going to go out and claim the victim. Please give me $5, $10, $20 to see if he can raise some money. Especially because he's going to have to put up a bond. Everybody keeps saying, well, he's going to appeal, because he said he was going to appeal.
Yeah, he
said, I don't agree with either verdicts. Now, who agrees with verdicts when they go against you? Nobody ever does. But then he claimed that the Biden administration was behind all of this, and that Biden, directed this witch hunt.
Oh my goodness! You know what? That's so funny. Every time, from the time he lost to President Biden, my goodness, he has nothing good thing to say about Biden.
Well, no, of course he's not does anything.
But you know what? That's only Trump. Other politicians, I mean, after a while,
that's insane. I mean, this happened. He raped this woman years before he was ever even in politics.
He's a businessman.
And I should say it was actually deemed by the actual legal term what he actually did to her, which I'm not going to talk about here on the radio. But the fact that now, he continued to say, even as he was walking out of the courtroom, this is not America. And many people have pointed this out, that this is actually what America is supposed to be. There are no kings and queens in America when it comes to the law. And America means everyone is treated the same under the law, even though he keeps saying, no, this is not America. I'm sure right now that's what he's going to use this for. He's going to appeal it. Now, if he appeals it, everybody goes, oh, he'll appeal it, he'll get out of it somehow, whatever. But even if he appeals it, he still has to put up that $83 million.
Yeah.
Either in assets or put it in a bond. And who's going to pay that bond?
Right.
What bond company is going to trust Donald Trump to pay them back?
Yeah.
Because many people are saying, many legal experts are saying, there is no appeal. He will appeal it, but the chances of it being overturned, and he's like, well, he'll appeal it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is not going to hear this. There's no constitutional reason for them to hear this. It's it's a civil trial for, sexual misconduct. The Supreme Court doesn't hear things like that. And he says the appeals court probably it'll probably last one day, because he's already been found guilty of, what he did to her, in that department store or whatever, a couple of decades ago. And so what is there to appeal? I think that's how that's what it's going to play out. I mean, he thinks over time, that he can kind of, intimidate her. It's not going to happen. She's already won. I don't think she's going to be intimidated at all by him.
I know after all this years, she got the immunity already. So probably, plus she has a very good lawyer. I saw the interview of the lawyer. She's a tough woman.
Oh, yeah.
And, she knows what she's talking about.
She's one of the best. She's one of the best lawyers you can get.
Like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, this woman, Jean-Carroll, is not just some girl.
Yeah.
I mean, she's she's a very well-to-do person. But Trump is continually saying, and this is an interesting question about what do you have the right to say. And he's saying, I have the right to say this. But actually, if you look at the law, and I kind of, just in case anybody's watching today who's a Trump supporter, we're actually just trying to look at the facts. Under the U.S. law, you actually can't say the things that he said. If you say things that he knows that will bring harm to his victims or defy their reputation to the point where it hurts them financially or causes them psychological harm, that is actually under United States law and Philippine law illegal. You can sue people in the Philippines for doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And this is very easy to prove. So, his lawyer, this woman, she had very little to say to rebut any of these claims because he writes it.
Yeah.
He doesn't say it. He tweets it. So if Trump would have just left this alone, paid his $5 million, this would have never happened. But he couldn't keep himself shut. So
yeah, but Trump is Trump, so he will continue saying this. So, and then that's why some people are saying that's why he really want to go back to power. This is one of his, aim really is to be back in
retribution.
Yes.
He would love to do some retribution. I mean, speaking of women in Trump's life, I want to kind of get to this really quick before we have to move on here. But, Trump won the New Hampshire primary this week.
Yeah.
That's not a surprise. I mean, I sort of expected him to win. There's some people that thought Nikki Haley might inch him out, but I didn't. Ron DeSantis got less than 1% of the vote. Poor Ron DeSantis. Although I don't feel very sorry for Ron DeSantis. But anyway, he finally decided to drop out of the race. Of course, he endorsed Donald Trump. No surprise there again. He's scared to death of Donald Trump. His political career has been basically described as being over. But he felt, as a lot of people have said, that he needed to kiss the ring of his rival. But Nikki Haley, the other woman in Trump's life that he's very upset about, she got 43.2% of the vote, while Trump got 54.3% of the vote. So Trump demanded that she drop out. And Nikki Haley was like, I got 43% of the vote. I don't think so.
Yeah.
So this is where we are now. And Trump, you can just tell, he hates having to deal with women.
I know, right? I mean, I think he loves women, but I think he hates more women.
He doesn't like strong women.
No, I don't think.
he-
Especially with somebody who's probably smarter, more intelligent than him.
Especially
He
someone
doesn't.
like Nikki Haley.
Oh, yeah.
Nikki Haley, he won't debate her. I mean, he said he doesn't want to debate her. He doesn't want to talk about her. He doesn't want her in the race.
Yeah.
He wants to focus on Biden, but instead he's got to focus on a woman. And who can make this kind of stuff up? He blamed her for the January 6th attacks this week, saying that she had the chance to bring in the military and she didn't. And basically, this is Trump having a senior moment because Nikki Haley was nowhere near the Capitol on January 6th. He has mixed her up with Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, who's another woman.
Yeah.
That's caused him a lot of trouble.
Well, he has his, I think he's maybe, my friend says, maybe his dementia started already.
Something is
something like that.
happening in Trump's brain. But the interesting thing, I mean, forget, I have senior moments too, but
All of us.
but interesting enough, they did a poll of Republicans who voted for Haley, and many of them said that they would never vote for Trump. So if you're a Republican and you won't vote for Trump, then who are you going to vote for? And this is the problem right now that Republicans have. Many Biden Democrats are more worried about Nikki Haley than they are about Trump, because Trump will do great amongst the MAGA Trump people, for sure. The problem that Trump has, and this is, since we're talking about the election coming up here, there's just not enough of them. And when you ask Republicans, 28% say they will not vote for Trump ever. But then when you ask Democratic voters, 98% say they will never vote for Trump ever.
Of course.
So this is a problem for him. And a lot of people are saying, well, Nikki Haley should get out of the race. But if you're a real Republican, she may be the only chance you have of beating Joe Biden, because they just don't think by the numbers that Trump has a chance of beating him.
Well, that's very interesting. We'll see.
Yeah, because Trump has not only got to win all the Republicans, 100% of the Republicans, he's also got to win a few of the Democrat people. He lost by 7,800,000 votes. He's got to get some of those people as well. And some people have already said that if he's convicted of a crime, they will not vote for him. And he's might be convicted of a crime if they could ever get him into court. Of course, Haley won't do good against the MAGA Trumpers, but in the overall election, they said that she would actually do better than Trump, and she would be the first woman president.
Well, yeah.
And not to keep going on about it, but the mega super rich donors in the Republican Party, they're picking her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're giving her the money, which I find just fascinating, because right now Joe Biden is the one that's making them all rich. The economy actually is doing quite well in the United States after not doing so well for a long time. So, but anyway.
But of course, the Republicans, they don't accept that.
No.
But
The company.
Of course, they will. They will do all the negative. But you know what? It shows that economy in the U.S. are getting better.
It's surprisingly, the U.S. stock market is the highest in history, and they have the lowest unemployment ratings. And quite a few other issues are going on in the United States now, which the Republicans it's making them very nervous.
Yeah. But the business people are just quiet about it.
Yeah, they're quiet about it because they're all making so much money.
Yeah, they're just like, okay, just continue doing their businesses and all that. They know because they're doing well, right?
Yeah, right now the stock market is doing quite well. But speaking of, we're still on this subject of rich guys getting away with assault. Vince McMahon is in the news this week. Vince McMahon is the chairman of the WWE wrestling company. And I bring that up because he's actually quite famous here in the Philippines. A lot of people know who he is because wrestling is quite popular in the Philippines. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. And as we have all said, wrestling matches might not be real, but they're fun to watch. So he's been sued multiple times over the past years for rape, sexual assault, human trafficking, but he's rich. He's always
Well-
be able to settle cases out of court.
Eric, that's a problem with rich people. They think they can really get away with it. And they can do anything they want. They abuse women. They do all kinds of illegal activities. So, look, I mean, maybe they can hide it for a while or maybe for a few years. But, you know, at the end of the day, the truth will come out.
Like
And-
this week,
Uh-huh.
when Vince McMahon resigned from the WWE because of a woman who was suing him. Supposedly McMahon dangled a nice job offer in front of her for sex.
Mm-hmm.
And then later he trafficked her to other men inside and outside of the company. He allegedly engaged in acts of extreme cruelty and degradation. So anyway, this week they finally said, all right, that's enough. He's going to have to eventually go to court, and he's decided that and a lot of times if these things come to this point, there's some truth to it.
Oh, definitely. I believe that.
And, Vince McMahon, he was going to retire back in 2022 after multiple allegations of sexual abuse, but he found a way out of that one. But this one was just too much. Supposedly, McMahon, this poor woman, he drug her behind a locked door with this other guy, and she begged him not to do this, and she was screaming, no, please don't do this. And to which McMahon said, no means yes.
Oh, my
and so
goodness.
when the grand jury heard that, that was enough. Vince McMahon retiring after being chairman for
he has to retire
many
really.
years.
I mean, my goodness, after abusing women especially, I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I don't understand this issue.
I mean, he's ridiculously super rich. So far, all the allegations against him, he just pays the women, okay, how much money do I need to give you to make this stop?
Yeah, that's what they do. They normally pay.
And
for
a
them
lot
to
of the
shut
women
up.
like, okay, give me $5 million or give me $2 million, give me, whatever. And that's enough, because otherwise he's going to, they're going to have to go through court. It's going to cost him a lot of money, and they may get nothing. It may go through a whole series of appeals, and 10 years later, E. Jean Carroll is 80 years old.
Yeah.
She hasn't actually seen a single dollar from Donald Trump, and she may not until she's already so old, she won't be able to spend it. But here again, do you want to go through this, or I'll just take the easy money? A lot of people just take the easy money.
Oh yeah, that's why they just keep quiet. They don't file case. They just ignore everything. They just pay me, and then shut up.
Yeah, and then it's kind of done. Which is speaking of back to cases here. In the most extreme cases, where it's not how much money you're going to have to pay, but whether you're going to live or die. And this has been a big case we're going to talk about from this week, is how do you execute somebody? When somebody's done something so bad that the only sentence is execution, and it seems like it wouldn't be that hard. The olden days, just shoot him in the head. That's the way. The olden days, they used to chop off your head. That's the way they did it. Very quick and easy, although both of those are a bit messy. So then they came up with the electric chair, but for a lot of people that was even worse. And then they had lethal injection. But in recent years, that has turned out to be one of the worst ways to die. So this past week, they tried something new. Now, who executes the most people? The United States. They execute a lot of people. Now, here again, legally, legal execution. The U.S. is where, so they tried something different there in Alabama, nitrogen gas. They were going to see if there was a guy there that was up for execution. So they had never really tested this before, but they thought, you know what, it should work, right? Because nitrogen gas, you give it to the person, they fall asleep, and then they slowly die. Well, in the first try, it didn't go that way. Kenneth Eugene, originally convicted of a murder in which he was a hired person to kill a man's wife. He carried out the murder, which happened in 1988. Wow, so it's been going on for a while. and he was paid $1,000, about 50,000 pesos, to kill this woman. And it was quite the case, though, at the time, because the husband realized that the police had the idea that Eugene was the one that had murdered his wife. So he went to church after he left the police station, admitted to his family that he was having an affair, and he had hired this man Eugene to kill his wife, and then he went to his car and he killed himself.
Wow. So
the husband, they couldn't convict him, so Eugene ended up being sentenced to death. And in 2020, he was to be executed by lethal injection. And this is one of the best examples of why lethal injection is not that great. They put the IV in, and then they inverted him in a crucifix position, so he's upside down. And then they injected him with some unknown substance. And then they repeatedly tried to put the central IV in his collarbone, and they couldn't get it in. And they stuck him and stuck him and stuck him, and they couldn't get it in. And finally, they just gave up and took him back to, they had to carry him back to his cell. So, you know, Alabama's had a lot of problems with killing somebody. So the Alabama corrections gave it another go this week with this unproven method of nitric gas. And here's what: you strap the convict down and you simply put a mask over him, and then he supposedly is supposed to go to sleep. Except it turns out that you don't just go to sleep. In fact, you thrash about violently on the gurney, and it seems what happens is your lungs stop functioning, but you're still awake. Supposedly the last words of Eugene was, "Tonight Alabama caused humanity to take a big step backwards." That was the last thing he said. A journalist who said they had been to 4 other executions said he had never seen anything as violent as this. He said they basically tortured this man to death. He suffocated while he was conscious. So, and then I'll get your opinion on this. Later, the commissioner of Alabama Corrections said the execution went very smoothly, which was disputed by everyone that was there, that was watching. A medical expert there said the death was slow and painful, agonizing. A well-known lawyer from the Equal Justice Division said that someone, his way that he explained that is, if someone rapes somebody, we don't punish them with rape. When someone tortures somebody, you don't punish them with torture. So why do we have the right to kill somebody like this? So this is something that brings up an interesting subject constitutionally. Is, you know, if you decide to kill a man, what rights do we have to kill him in certain ways, I guess, is the question.
Isn't that death penalty is it's a law, right? Who made the law? Why they created that law, right? So that's my question. So,
I mean, it's from the Bible, an eye for an eye.
Yeah. Okay, fine. All right. So now, just for the sake of discussion, Eric. So, I was wondering, like, you know, lethal injection, I think, is easier than the nitrogen gas, because maybe they just, I don't know what they did. How come? When the first time they did it on the 2020, right? Yeah,
they botched a lot of these injection things.
So,
they had one that they botched where they tried to get the needle in the guy, and they couldn't get in it until the guy finally sat up and helped them do it.
Yeah. There must be something wrong on how they did it, because I remember some other countries, they're doing the little injection. So far there's no issue after. The next thing you know, the guy died at this hour. So I don't know why. There must be something wrong. Maybe the guy is not ready to die that time. So
well, it's called vein.
They postponed it.
I think it's called vein flattening or something.
Whatever,
when a guy, some people, they get very nervous and their veins flatten, and it's very hard to get.
Maybe there's some reason. Yeah.
But you know, like I said, I mean, you know, first thing when you're doing that thing, the lethal injection stuff, and they get the thing in, it you know, it takes a while. So you're laying there for a while. I always thought that the best way, just the quick and easy. I think if it was me, I don't know, maybe the guillotine would be all right. Just at nighttime when I'm sleeping, come in and just shoot me in the head. I don't even know what day. Just I know it's going to happen like this month sometime. I don't know. That's just me. But one of the interesting thing was the jury that voted in this case back in 1988. They actually voted for life in imprisonment, and the death penalty was instituted by the judge. He overrode the jury and inflicted the death penalty on this guy. And this procedure is now no longer allowed in the United States. U.S. Supreme Court also had a chance to change the sentence to life imprisonment. And of course, the 3 judges that are liberals said they should make it to life in prison, and then the other judges, the Trump judges, they all said no, they should kill him. So that's the way that went. But it's an interesting philosophical question about should we have the right to kill a person because they killed another person, or should they just be incarcerated for the rest of their life?
Well, for me, if you ask me personally, I'd rather die. Not, because if you're in prison, your life it's more, I think, I mean, I would rather say, okay, I'd rather die instead of putting me in jail. Well, especially jail in the Philippines, it
depends on what jail. Yeah. I mean, there are jails that are, not, but I mean, it's an interesting question, because a lot of people in the United States right now, there are more people that believe, according to polls, that it should be life imprisonment. We do not have the right to kill another human being.
Well, of course, as a Christian world will not agree on killing people. We are, nobody has the right to take life of individual. Only God can take, there's some...
they're trying to figure this out in the Philippines now. They're trying to decide on whether they...
That's why we couldn't pass now, death penalty. We had death penalty before. And, of course, they changed the law and everything. And then, because there's a lot of heinous crime. That's why, because if there is a death penalty, people will think twice, thrice before they do something, something stupid, like killing or whatever. So.
Yeah, I mean, there are people that in the heat of the moment, they, kill their aunt or their father or whatever. This was not that. This was a crime of a man was paid this much money to kill this woman. They planned it out. They went in, they stabbed her to death. Yeah. It was a pretty, heinous crime.
Yeah.
Like I said, the jury thought because, he was not related to her, he was just paid, that they would give him life in prison. That was the reason why they didn't have him executed. But then the judge overrode that and said, no, he's going to be, he's going to be executed.
Okay, you know what, Eric? The best thing to do in life, just don't do anything that can, cost your death or imprisonment. Just be a good...
I mean, okay.
I mean,
it's easier said than done.
Yeah, I know, but then, you don't, because people are tempted to do something stupid because of money.
Not because of money. $1,000.
Yeah,
that's what he's going to pay, $1,000. Oh, it was 1988. Speaking of things, that people shouldn't do, here's something that I did not see coming. The United Nations Agency for the Palestinian Refugees said this past week it had opened an investigation into whether some of its employees were involved in the October 7th attack on Israel. Now, that is something that was a bit of a shock to a lot of people. I mean, if this is true, this is going to be bad.
Of course.
I mean, really bad. In the past few months, the UN has been scolding Israel for its attacks on the poor Palestinians of Gaza. And now, they're telling them, stop killing civilians, and then getting the World Court to order Israel to stop committing acts of genocide against the people of Palestine. And now, is it possible that the people within its own ranks were conspiring with the enemy?
Yeah, and then, the latest is that, a lot of countries are withdrawing their support to UN.
Yes.
And that is very, when they stop supporting the UN, what will happen?
Well,
They need funding.
there's going to stop supporting the UNRWA, which is that
Yeah,
group.
I know.
That's part of this. But I mean, the U.S., Germany, the European Union, they've all dropping funding for the
Yeah.
UNRWA. And, that's the main, here's the thing is, that group is the main source of funds for the humanitarian assistance to Gaza. So what is that going to mean? And so, the U.S. is said they're very disturbed by these allegations of 12 employees. And for now, no more cash until this mess has cleared up. And, of course, what does that mean is what that means is what's already happening in Gaza. The people are going to get cut off from the only aid that they have.
Yeah.
And so that is something that is just, like I said, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, and everybody, we are all surprised with that news. And then, how did they get involved? Why did they get involved?
Yeah, I know. I'm very interested to see how this investigation goes. Right now there's not a whole lot that about it, except that they got rid of all those 12. They fired all those 12 people. So
yeah, it's so easy to fire those people, but then the damage has been done.
I mean, yeah,
People
it's
get
not going to
killed.
end. It's not going to end because they
Yes.
fired them. Because the Israelis are going to be demanding.
Oh yeah, of course. Because a lot of people are against Israel now. So now they have
Yes.
they got something.
They got now. I mean, and it was the Israelis that figured this out.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the Israelis could not figure out that Hamas was about to attack them in Gaza, as some people think that maybe they kind of wanted Hamas to attack them in Gaza. That's a whole nother story, which we're actually working on right now, or I'm working on this for an upcoming show. But this is going to be an interesting twist, and this whole thing. And speaking of twists and turns, this stuff that's going on in the Red Sea, to make matters worse, the Houthi have decided to get their 15 minutes of fame. They're shooting missiles at commercial ships in the Red Sea. And the reason that they're doing this is because of the Israelis attacking Hamas. Like I said, they just need a reason. And this is what Hamas was hoping for. And what better way to draw the United States into this fight than to escalate the war? Before, this is just kind of a regional war. But now, as this is happening in the Red Sea, and they're shooting at these commercial ships and, hitting them with missiles, and the ships are catching on fire. These are the Houthis out of Yemen. And they've been running an all-out assault on large shipping vessels that are crossing the Red Sea there, using these drones and surface-to-air missiles they have. And they're starting fires on these big, large ships, including a U.S. military ship, which I think was a stupid thing for them to do, because now that Houthi has fired, they hit a U.S. warship. Of course, what's the U.S. going to do?
Retaliate.
They're going to retaliate. So they've been blowing them like they've been shooting. If you're in a Houthi vessel and you're on the open ocean, guess what's going to happen? Every single person on your ship is going to die.
Oh yeah.
Because the United States has been taking their helicopters out there and just obliterating them at sea.
Don't mess around.
So that's this is getting really bad because they're trying to do is they're trying to take down some of these big these oil cargo ships and stop the oil coming through the Red Sea, because right now they're having to go around because nobody wants to go through the Red Sea because they don't want to get shot.
Yeah, of course, they're scared.
And that's going to give a reason for the Middle East to try and raise the oil prices. So. It's been a little bit crazy that they're trying to pull this right now. I mean, it's pretty smart and pretty dumb at the same time, because right now they're going to be drawing the United States into shooting at them, and then now of course Yemen, and then that brings in Iran. And now it's no longer like a little tiny regional war, and now it's starting to spread out into other places.
Well, what can I say? Somebody started it. Everyone to.
I know.
And
Everybody's starting it. Speaking of starting a war, there's two things I want to talk about. China says that East Asia is now a very dangerous place to be because of the U.S.
Why are they saying that?
Because the U.S. has been driving its boats through the waterway that separates Taiwan from China, and China says they're doing it just to provoke them, which, by the way, it's legal. You can bring your ships, your military ships through there. There's nothing that says you can't do that. But in any case, the U.S. John Finn has been taking some trips through that area, making sure things are okay, making sure the Chinese not doing something they're not supposed to be doing. But this has really been angering the Chinese, especially since the election in Taiwan just happened, and China's top picks did not win. However, the U.S.'s friends did win. So the reunification of Taiwan and China has taken a giant step backwards because of this. So China says the U.S. is courting danger, and it needs to avoid maritime and air accidents.
Well,
we don't want an accident to happen.
All right, let me a little insert on that because of the election of Taiwan, right? When our president Bongbong Marcos, congratulate them. I mean, the elected president, China get mad.
I'm sure they did.
Oh my goodness! So that's why our defense secretary gets so upset.
They loaned a lot of money to the Philippines. Now the Philippines is congratulating the new leader of Taiwan.
That's the thing. To me, personal opinion is that we want to make friends with everybody. Congratulations to anybody. Congratulatory message. It's just a congratulatory message.
But think of it this way, Lolly. If this happens and China does finally say, all right, this is enough, we're taking back Taiwan, and a war starts, Chinese is expecting the Philippines to come down on their side.
Well, the only thing is, what can Philippines do? We're such a small, we're such a tiny country. We don't want to be in the middle of the, war of all this.
You don't want to be in the middle of the war, but you will be, because you are the best strategic military location in the Southeast Asian seas.
Yes, we are.
So everybody's going to be looking at you, going, "All right, Philippines, who you gonna go with here?"
Okay. The only thing I can think of is that Philippines we will just hide.
We don't
want to get involved.
I don't think this one you can hide. But anyway, according to China, the root cause of the China-U.S. maritime and air security issues lies in the U.S.'s military's harassment and provocations on China's doorstep, engaged in a prolonged, extensive, and high-frequency activities in the maritime and aerial areas surrounding China. Now, this is kind of hilarious in a lot of ways, seeing that China has been running their boats around the Philippine Sea. But China is urging the United States to stop abusing international law, because it is not illegal for them to bring these boats in, and to cease all dangerous provocations and strictly discipline its troops on the ground. I'm not sure what that means, but it's just funny that they would be trying to dictate this when they themselves have been breaking maritime law here in the Philippine Sea.
Yes, they've been claiming that they don't follow the the law that was been passed, that this is our territory.
Well, they lost in court. They're not supposed to be coming into the Philippine Sea, but they continually keep running their big their boats through here.
Yeah, they're the one that's violating the law, not the Philippines.
So interesting enough. But here's an interesting thing is, speaking of let's all go to war, which is what seems we're talking about all the time, North Korea this week vows to dismantle Kim Jong-un's father unification arc, which is this big giant statue thing that they had built there. He declared this week that South Korea is their principal enemy.
Oh, South Korea. Okay.
So the goal of both Koreas, since the original divide, the two eventually, it was the goal of South Korea and North Korea that eventually they would come back together. The issue being, who's the leader going to be? But each, the North and the South, called for the unification of Korea, and of course, who, depending on who's going to be the leader. It was the dream of Kim Jong-un's grandfather and his father to bring Korea back together. However, it looks like those days might be over. Because this week, Kim Jong-un is no longer interested in bringing the two Koreas together under one rule. Before, there was lots of speeches and accusations, an all-out PR campaign to make sure it was public on both sides. They knew that their leader was ready to bring the other country back, to bring the other people back into the fray, but that seems to be over now. And of course, the problem with North Korea is the rest of the world mostly is not on their side. But it looks like the only option that they are giving is war against South Korea. And maybe this week, who knows, doesn't matter anymore. Kim just doesn't seem concerned about bringing the South back to the North. He seems now just to want to tear the whole thing down. The South is no longer looking to bring back his fellow countrymen, but rather wants to kill them all and conquer the South Koreans. And that's what he said on January 15th in a meeting of Parliament. Kim proclaimed that South Korea is now the principal enemy of the North, and while the nuclear arms that they have, that he has, he doesn't want to war, but he says, I have no intention of avoiding it, whatever that means. He said that he is going to abolish all agencies responsible for promoting the cooperation and reunification with the South. And here's the kicker. He's going to demolish the reunification arch that was built in 2001 to symbolize the goal of reunifying Korea back together again. And Kim said that he will annihilate South Korea if he's ever provoked. So the question, I guess, Lolly, is, what does it mean, provoked?
Provoke.
What does it take? What is the line that South Korea would need to cross for Kim Jong-un to be provoked and give him justification to use his massive arsenal of weapons, to shoot over the demilitarized zone?
I think somebody knows. We don't know what it is to provoke him, how to provoke him, but there is. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe South Korea knows.
I mean, he's provoked now because of that. I mean, the South Koreans, they had an agreement back in 2018 that they were going to pull back some of their military weapons, but then North Korea sent up that spy satellite. So the South Koreans are like, all right, we're putting everything back. And that made him mad. That provoked him a little bit. So, North Korea's, they're starving to death. And now they had this, here's what's worried everybody, is they had this meeting between Kim Jong-un and Putin recently. Because, there's been no evidence of any kind of diplomacy, especially that big debacle that they had with Trump. And now all of a sudden, Putin's in the fray.
You know what, Eric? If I only have the power, I am going to change the leader of North Korea, Russia, all the countries that has a big problem. I want to change their leaders. Somebody who has, somebody who is not into war, somebody who's thinking, thinking good for their country, for their people. But those leaders that you mentioned, for me, I'm scared of those leaders, like the Russian leader, and they have not done anything, to me personally. But when I look and watch them, I was kind of scared of what they are capable of doing. I'm already seeing what they're doing.
Yeah, here again, if I had the chance, I would take away their leaders. But you know what? In 5 years, all those leaders could be gone. The United States could have a leader who's worse than all of them. Kim Jong-un could, be, kicked out of power eventually. Putin could get a bullet in the back of the head. And Belgium may have the worst leader. It's so weird how things change so drastically. We never know who's going to. There are certain European countries. Right now, Turkey is going to get. Turkey with its leader Erdogan, who scares the crap out of me sometimes. The United States decided to sell him F-16s. So they're going to sell him all these 40 F-16s in order to make a deal to get Sweden into NATO. I mean, okay, that's great. We need Sweden in NATO, but do we need to give Turkey 40 F-16s in order to get it?
Yeah, but of course they already discussed why, and
I'm just, it's funny how things change on a dime. And honestly, I do not believe that Kim Jong-un is really going to try to go to war with South Korea, because if he does, he knows he would be annihilated in a short amount of time, because the United States will come in and just flatten him. And the United States is just waiting for something to happen. So I think, a lot of this is just bluster. But the fact that he is now aligning himself with Russia gives him a little bit of carte blanche to go, you know what, maybe I can say this, and if they do something, maybe I can do it, because Russia's going to come to my backside. Because just recently, Russia shot off some missiles, and they landed in the Ukraine, and the Ukraine is like, hey, wait a second, I think these were made in North Korea. Which, of course, North Korea says, oh, no, they're not ours. Yeah, they are. They were made in North Korea. Yeah. So, that's what I think worries a lot of people. Nobody's worried about North Korea. They're worried about them, but they're not going to take over the world. But North Korea and Russia, and then when that, if that were to happen, where's China going to come down on all this? Whose side are they going to come down on? They're going to take the U.S.'s side, or are they going to take North Korea's side? And this is what here I brought up the fact of Turkey. Man, you give all these F-16s to Turkey. Whose side is Turkey on anyway? I don't know. I mean, they're part of NATO, but just, what was it, a couple months ago? They looked like they were siding with Russia.
Well, there must be a secret deal, Eric.
Yeah, some kind of deals going on. Speaking of deals, though, we got to deal ourselves out of this show, 𝗪𝗶𝗋, because we are out of time. But very good discussion this week. Thank you so much for joining us here on the World News Jam on DZRJ and RJTV. Thank you very much, 𝗪𝗶𝗋.
You're welcome,
for
Mary.
being here on the show. My name is Eric Lecain. We will be back again next Sunday, so please join us then. And for now, everybody be safe out there, and we will see you next week.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.